From the heartbeat of the Republic, this is the PAWA podcast. Be powerful. Bringing you independent voices, expert opinion, driving change.
Hello and welcome to the PAWA Mjue Kiongozi Wako podcast series. This is a civic education platform, advocacy platform where we want to provide civic education to the public, but also offer a platform for young aspirants, the youth basically who are vying for the MCA positions, to come and share their manifestos and engage in conversations on issues to do with governance. Our main aim of doing this podcast series is basically to provide the citizens with an opportunity to audit the leaders who have offered themselves for leadership. Because we know every 5 years we go to elections, but the way we do our elections, rarely do we have an opportunity where people talk about the real issues. We are always about rallies where basically it's the aspirants talking to the people, never an exchange where the voters also have something to say. So this platform offers that opportunity for listeners, especially those who will be voting for the aspirants who will come to the show, to hear from the aspirants their manifestos and be able to gauge whether, if I might use Kenyan common phrase, whether wanatosha mboga ama hawatoshi. So our main aim is just to ensure that we contribute to good governance in this country, because we understand that governance starts at the election process. If we get in good leaders, we are assured of good governance. If we get in not so good leaders, we all know the impact of that. So today, we are honored to have an aspirant from Kilimani Ward in Nairobi County, who will join us, and we'll have the discussion on the same. So I will welcome my guest. I want him to introduce himself. So karibu sana. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Haji Nzibo. I'm an aspirant for Kilimani County Assembly, and my party is ANC and the Kenya Kwanza Coalition. So it is an honor to be here and to share my ideas and views of governance and leadership to the audience, and particularly residents of the Kilimani. So I don't know what you've planned, questions you've planned for me.
Just relax. But I can assure you it's going to be a very insightful discussion.
Okay.
So maybe the first question, why are you running for office, Haji?
Why am I running for office? Representation. We have a 6.5% representation of youth in the national and particularly the National Assembly.
That's true.
So if a majority is led by a minority, then that is misrepresentation. Therefore, my bid was based on statistics and fact that we need as youth to increase the number of legislators in the county and National Assembly to represent our views. Because if you see the debts that this country is accruing, who's going to pay those debts? It's us, but we were not heavily involved in the participation of acquiring of these debts. Therefore, the baggage is left for us. Mm-hmm. So if I have a life expectancy of maybe 85 years, I'm 26. How many more years am I going to spend in paying these debts? Seven out of every 10 shillings is spent to pay this debt. Mm-hmm. I'm left for 3. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the entire 3 because I actually have to look for it, because we have a 47% unemployment rate in the country. Mm-hmm. So you can understand the dilemma as youth that we experience. And if we do not, if we're not aggressive enough in an earlier level, then we will have possibly 1 shilling to fight for with the 50 million citizens who live here, and the 9 out of 10 will be going back to pay China.
Wow, quite insightful. I see from the onset you are identifying yourself that you're running on the youth platform.
I am.
Which is very admirable. And actually, that's one of the reasons why you set up this podcast series, because we're focusing on young people because we believe the future belongs to young people. Or should we say the present as well? Yeah. Our elections, there is in the Constitution, Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity. There are certain, it lays out what kind of leaders we expect to have in the country. Basically, what we look at is people of admirable character. What are your views? What are your views on Chapter 6?
I think Chapter 6 is essential and fundamental to any human being who aspires to serve people, because a situation where a leader has no integrity, then that leaves room for selfish interest and selfish benefiting, which is evident in the Kenyan political sphere, that majority, not all, but majority of the leaders go there to discuss their own how they will benefit from the government. And this leaves out the taxpayer, because he's the one who's financing all these government projects. Therefore, if a minority can still benefit out of the goodwill of the people in giving Caesar what belongs to Caesar, then it begs a question of unfairness and lack of empathy from the leaders to their people.
Okay. How would you rate our current leadership vis-a-vis what Chapter 6 espouses?
That's a tough question. It's easy to say how corrupt our government is, because it is factual. It is factual. If a president can stand and admit to over 50 million citizens that 2 billion is lost on a daily I think basis, it is shameful. What I mean, how is that fact helping me to pay my taxes? Yesterday I was filing my tax returns, and I saw how much that the government is going to receive from my labor, and it's painful to see how much you're paying to the government and how much the government is reciprocating the favor back to you. I mean, taking the whole idea back to Kilimani, when it rains in Kilimani, I think for some people it is a date for swimming because of how the drainage is clogged. And you beg to ask, who is supposed to do this now? Is it now citizen initiative, or is it a responsibility of the government, or of basically maybe the county assembly or Kura? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's a challenge to look at those issues because of how much we depend on our government. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately, the current parliament, and even the one that preceded it, since we had the constitution promulgated in 2013, so we're going to have almost 2 parliaments. None of these parliaments saw it fit to domesticate Chapter 6, so it's kind of up there. Mm-hmm. It's whether you want to do it. Mm-hmm. It's not a must. There's no legislation that compels you to. Mm-hmm. Even though, if we are to interpret the Chapter 6 in terms of the spirit of the Constitution, then you really don't need any law to compel you to do certain things. Mm-hmm. But anyway, this I know you've been you've listened to what has been happening in the past 1 week or 2 weeks, to say so. Mm-hmm. The EACC has released a list of aspirants who they feel they are not fit to hold public office. Mm-hmm. And let me just zero in on the most highlighted one of the current Nairobi senator, who is running for governor right now. The issue of his academic credentials, also because he's a young person, and also young on the youth platform. Where do you think is the problem? Is it because when you listen to the debate, there are people, of course, during elections, people are polarized. Yeah, there are those who, like in our case, Azimio, and it's just, and Kenya Kwanza. And when one of any aspirant is caught up, there's a likelihood of citizens, voters, defending sometimes what I'll call the indefensible. So in light of like Sakaja's credentials and also the list, there are almost 66 persons who are listed in that.
I think for the EACC issue, my governor was not mentioned. He was flagged by IBC.
He was flagged by IBC.
Yeah, by IBC. The EACC flagged the likes of Sonko, which is basically an issue of corruption and abuse of public resources. So Sakaja did not have any cases with EACC. His issue was particularly with IBC, in which yesterday he was announced a victor of the process, because you see, such issues are just political distractions.
You believe so?
I know so. I know so because I'm in the coalition. I'm in the Kenya Kwanza coalition, and hopefully, come August 10th, is the governor announced for Nairobi. So, you see, it's surprising when talking about Sakaja, when he was with TNA, the National Alliance, he was the brainchild of the constitution, or of its constitution, the manifesto, and the national TNA during the time, and the coming together of TNA and URP to make the Jubilee Coalition of 2013. When he ran for Senate and the leadership of the presidential candidate, then His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, there was no issue to do with his qualification.
Senate does not require degrees. So
it does not?
It does not. Only governor and president.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's why there is a lot of furor about his credentials. But let's wait and see.
Don't you think how strange it is now that to be a senator you do not need a degree? He's one of the best performing senators with all the laws, and Senate is a legislative function who oversees government policies come to law. So it is also surprising to find out that in the Senate you don't need a degree, but in governance you do need one. Yet the senator does appeal the laws or does make the laws for the county assembly.
The drafters of our constitution, so it fit that way. But anyway, away from the politics, the fundamental question here is how do we give life as a country to Chapter 6 of the leadership and integrity? What do you think voters? What do you think is the role of voters, of the citizens, in giving life to this Chapter 6? Because clearly, our leaders are not going to, willfully and subject themselves to the dictates of this of Chapter 6.
You see, there's political reality and political fantasy. So the political fantasy is the expectation that the citizen or individuals should decide what ought to be done to these leaders. I think we should. The good thing about the Constitution is that when you have been found guilty, in abusing public resources or the public office, then you ought not to vie for a political seat. I think now the question should be, how many times should you be hindered from vying? Let's say now how we can improve our Constitution is by saying, if you've been found that you have been clearly found by the court of law, you've abused public office, then you should be given a minimum of 20 years, not to vie for any political or appointed government position. Then therefore that restricts, and because if anybody is found to be on the wrong side of the law, 20 years you cannot serve the people, which is, I think, those are some of the bills that possibly I could introduce. Now come to Parliament, not the County Assembly, as a member of County Assembly, maybe as a member of the National Assembly. With the political reality is that Politics is about interest. And the most fundamental thing is that a leader has the interest of its people first
True.
in his heart than his own interest. But then let's look at this dilemma whereby we have one of the probably the most unpopular exiting president. You have people who were supporting the handshake and the Azimio coalition become one of the most unpopular members of parliament in central Kenya by virtue of supporting Raila Odinga. So does the president then give a direct ticket maybe to a member of National Assembly of his party, Jubilee, based on his loyalty to the party or his loyalty to the people? So that is political reality. That is political reality. So where do you stand as a leader? If you want to isolate yourself and become the red dot in a space of, let's say, white, you look different than everybody else, and the system ejects you. Even your body, if you try to put in a foreign object, even your tongue inside your mouth, it's foreign to the mouth. So that what naturally is to gag, and you want to vomit. So I think a leader should also have wit and craft to put the interest of his people primary than the interest of the party or himself. And he has to do this without his party's knowledge and his people's knowledge. He has to be the smartest guy in the room to be able to sell the agenda of his people without ruffling feathers. Because the moment you ruffle feathers, you're ejected. We have... You see, politics is not...
Are you trying to say that it is impossible to,
It's not impossible.
implement?
No, it's not impossible. All I'm trying to say is we need a different type of leader who understands political reality and is able to mince out the most for his people than for his party or for his agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you that type of leader? Do you think yourself to be that type of leader?
I think I came into politics March 26th of 2022. So there's a lot to learn. There is absolutely a lot to learn. But with these few months of being in politics, I've come to understand that now the modern politician is he who knows that fact.
Putting the interest of the people first.
Primarily, without ruffling feathers of the interest of the party.
Wow.
Yes.
That's going to be a delicate balancing act.
It is a
given the way we run our politics
But
in
if
this
you
country.
decide to get into public service, then willingly, because the people vote for you after you come out. You say you want to lead, and you say you want to serve. So it is entirely up to you to figure out your ways into serving your people best. Because if you get there and you serve the party, the people reject you. If you serve the people, the party rejects you.
Interesting. I can't wait to have this conversation with you 2 years after you've
I hope so, man.
sworn in and see if we still hold the same view.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. Any leader, a good leader, you believe, must have a leadership philosophy. Something that your style of leadership. People know what to expect. Yeah. So Haji, what's your leadership style or leadership philosophy?
Good question. My leadership philosophy, particularly, let me break it down to periods. In this campaign, or for the next 5 years, if elected to office, is soft life.
What did you say?
I said soft life.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And why I chose that philosophy is, you see, do we want its opposite?
No, I mean, I don't want.
Do we want its opposite? Is its opposite better than what I'm saying right now? you know. So, I mean, the Kenyan citizen is heavy burdened,
Yeah, that's true.
you know, taxes,
Cost of living.
the cost of, I mean, today, coming midnight, the cost of fuel was going up by 9 shillings.
9 shillings.
You had no say whatsoever about it. There was nothing else you're going to do. As a member of County Assembly in Kilimani, how can I help, even in your mental state? I mean, this is a new generation. It's 2022, okay? So if I can provide facilities in the Kilimani ward that would benefit the mental state of the people. Now, what are these facilities? An example is a social hall where we can have theater and art being expressed. That is an avenue of relieving stress. So I'm not saying I'm solving a problem of the cost of living going up, but I'm trying to effectively and to the level best I can do to make your life better.
Okay.
Or easier to endure. Because you're enduring now. So is the government making a deliberate effort to make your life easier or softer? No, it's not. If anything, it's making your life worse. But then, if a member of county assembly can provide up to standards AstroTurf pitches, which is most of these facilities are used are used in Europe. If you bring it to now Kilimani, where you can have such facilities in schools, you can have, assuming all the primary schools in Kilimani had swimming pools. It's not a luxury, you know. We're a progressive country. If therefore the children use this facility Monday to Friday, and then the residents can use it Saturday and Sunday because most of the days they are working, is your life better with or without it?
Oh,
Okay, and the government is providing this service. So therefore, with Haji in the county assembly, there's a likelihood of a softer life for a Kilimani resident.
Okay.
And not just that.
So you identify yourself more like a socialist? I mean, like, Moi was a dictator through and through. You knew what to expect from Moi. And then we've had, even the current ongoing political, the current political formations, there are those who call themselves progressives or reformists. And there are those
I think progressive is what I'd
I'd
go for. I'd go for progressive.
Yeah, so you are progressive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're that sort of person who will put the interest of the people first.
Yes. Yes. Because I'm a resident, you know, and I'm trying to make the office of the county assembly to become relevant to the people by solving, let's say, domestic issues, like local issues. What are we suffering? Kilimani suffers from particularly the coming up of high-rise buildings, which no public participation has been involved throughout the whole process. And therefore, causes issues like lack of privacy. You can imagine if a 18-story building is coming up next to your bungalow. I mean, where do you play with your kids without people looking at you? Where do you enjoy the space in your garden without people looking at you? And you find that these buildings coming up they did not involve public participation. Because anything that is any development that comes to a ward should be of interest to the people living there. How does it benefit the people living there? If anything, with these poorly planned and developed projects, they put stress to water. If you find one bungalow normally would host maybe a family of 5 or 6 on a maximum. But an 18-story building hosts how many people?
250.
Yeah, 250. So a resource that was supposed to be enjoyed by 6 people now has to be enjoyed by 256 people. Therefore, there is stress on this facility.
I hear you, but I see we're getting into the areas of your manifesto.
Okay.
We'll get back to we'll get into that, but so that we finish on the introductory bit, we will delve into your manifesto
Okay.
at length.
Okay.
Who inspires you in Kenya? Let me say a leader, especially in your field, the political leader. Who inspires you in Kenya, and probably if not in Kenya, in outside Kenya, and why? How will we get a glimpse of Haji? We want to see a glimpse of Haji through somebody you aspire to.
The name I'm about to say is...
Just say it.
I think the vision of One Africa by Muammar Gaddafi, to have a United States of Africa.
Muammar Gaddafi.
Yeah. That's I think it's incredible to see when a leader was in government. The cost of fuel was about 6 shillings in Libya.
While we are paying how much?
160 today. 159, 160. We had free housing, free healthcare. The government would give you money to get married.
You don't say.
Yeah, in Libya.
How much?
I don't know how the exact figures, but enough to start a family.
Guys, have you had that? Probably should all relocate to Libya.
No, he's gone now. He's gone now. Libya had the largest gold reserve in Africa, and maybe the world, but I can guarantee Africa. So what was America's interest in Libya? So you're talking about leaders who inspire me. I think Muammar. And let me now bring it home. I think seeing the hopefully incoming governor, Sakaja, I've had moments with him, and I can visualize his ideas coming into reality. You see, having more roads does not guarantee having less traffic. Let me bring it home. Why do we have traffic in Nairobi? It's not because we have less roads in Nairobi, no. It's because of the congestion in the city. And the congestion comes from what? All opportunities in this country is in Nairobi.
In one place, yeah.
All residential areas now have to come to Nairobi. Having an alternative public transport system, let's say a subway, that you could commute from Ngong to Nairobi in under 1 hour. What would that mean to Nairobi? You take 2 hours to get to CBD. You live in Langata, you live in South Sea, you live in Kilimani, you live in Kileleshwa, you live in Lavington, you live in Eastlands, you take 2 hours.
So these were ideas Sakaja was sharing with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So imagine having a subway that you could commute from Machakos to CBD in less than an hour. You go to Ngong, I mean, as far as Thika, that would decongest Nairobi completely. Therefore, less traffic. Yeah. So I don't want to spend 2 hours in traffic.
One wants
I'd rather
to
live
spend 2
far,
hours.
commute 1 hour with a speed train, get to Nairobi, do my business, go back home, takes me 2 hours. So a journey that would have taken me 4 hours now takes me half. You've saved me 2 hours. That's a lead I can believe in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of our first session with Mjue Kiongozi Wako, where we are hosting Haji Nzibo, MCA Aspirant, Kilimani Wards. Keep it locked for the next session as we delve into much more deeper issues.
Thank you.